In a quiet park on a golden afternoon, everything seemed ordinary until Rex started barking. A powerful German shepherd, his instincts sharper than reason itself. People tried to calm him down, waving their hands, whispering, "It's just a man talking to a child." But Jack Carter, a war veteran, didn't move. He looked closer, and in that moment, he and Rex saw something no one else did. A smile that was too calm, a child's eyes filled with fear. If you believe in silent heroes and the power of intuition, stay with us until the end. Tell us where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another story. Have a peaceful day, wherever you are. The afternoon light over Maple Ridge Park was soft and forgiving, touching the ripples on the lake and glinting across benches left warm by the sun. The air carried the faint hum of conversation, a child's laughter, the rustle of paper bags from a food cart nearby. Jack Carter, a 42-year-old veteran with a broad build and a quiet, steady walk, held the leash of his German shepherd, Rex. After years of service, Jack had grown used to silence, the kind that followed explosions, the kind that lingered in his bones. But lately, he sought the gentler kind, the one that came from peace. Rex trotted ahead with his tail slightly raised, head alert, his coat a mix of black and tan that shimmered each time sunlight caught it. They followed the familiar path circling the lake, where the fountain in the center rose and fell like a breathing creature. That was when Jack noticed something unusual. On a stone bench near the fountain sat a well-dressed man in his late 30s, neatly combed hair, clean-shaven face, expensive shoes that did not belong to a casual park afternoon. Beside him was a little girl, no older than 5, wearing a beige polka-dot dress. Her small shoulders were stiff, her gaze lowered. The man leaned close, murmuring words Jack couldn't hear, but the child's body language spoke clearly. She was afraid. Jack slowed his pace, his instinct sharpening. Perhaps it was nothing, he thought, but there was a tension in the air that pressed on his senses like the seconds before a firefight. Rex stopped too, his posture shifting from relaxed to rigid, his ears pointed forward, nostrils flaring as if he had caught a scent that didn't belong to the peace around them. Jack's grip on the leash tightened, but Rex didn't wait for a command. The dog released a low growl that rippled through the quiet, like thunder rolling across open ground. People turned. A jogger stopped mid-stride. A mother pulling a stroller glanced nervously over her shoulder. The man on the bench looked up, startled, his expression flickering between surprise and annoyance. The girl's hands trembled, her lips parted as if she wanted to speak but couldn't. Then Rex barked, once sharp and loud, then again louder, insistent, until the calm park erupted into confusion. "Hey, control your dog!" someone shouted. A man near the fountain waved his arms, trying to shoo the animal. But Jack didn't move. He had seen this posture in Rex before, back in the desert, when the dog had scented danger before any human eye could see it. The man on the bench forced a smile, murmuring something to the girl again. That was when the child snapped. Her voice cracked through the noise like glass breaking. "Sir, he's not my dad." Every sound around them stopped. The words hung in the air, heavy, unbelievable. For a moment, no one moved. Then the man reached out, grabbing the girl's wrist. She tried to pull away, crying now, and Rex lunged forward, snarling. The leash jerked hard in Jack's hand, but he didn't hold him back this time. Jack closed the distance in seconds. "Let her go," he barked. The man spun around, his face pale, his polished composure dissolving into panic. "This is a misunderstanding," he stammered. But Rex was already in front of him, teeth bared, chest rumbling with a sound that made everyone step back. The little girl stumbled into Jack's arms, sobbing uncontrollably. Jack pulled her behind him, shielding her as Rex advanced just enough to keep the man frozen in place. "Stay where you are," Jack ordered, pulling his phone with one hand, while keeping his body between the child and the stranger. His voice was steady, clipped with the discipline of command. "This is Jack Carter, former U.S. Army," he said into the phone. "Possible child abduction at Maple Ridge Park. Immediate assistance required." Around them, the small crowd that had gathered whispered in disbelief, their eyes darting from the trembling girl to the immaculately dressed man who looked increasingly out of place in the afternoon calm. The sirens came fast. 2 patrol cars slicing through the serenity of the park, lights flashing red across the lake. Officers stepped out, weapons drawn but lowered, moving in formation. "Hands where we can see them!" one shouted. The man hesitated, his lips twitching into a faint smile. "You people don't understand," he said quietly. "I'm following orders." His tone was too calm, too deliberate. The officers exchanged glances, cuffed him, and led him toward the cruiser. As they did, Rex's growl faded into a cautious whine, his eyes following the man until he disappeared behind the door of the police car. When the officers searched him, they found a small glass vial containing a clear liquid and an old photograph folded carefully into his wallet, a picture of a young boy with brown curls and wide eyes. The child was not the girl he had been with. One of the officers held up the vial and frowned. "What is this?" he asked, but the man, now identified as Victor Hale, only looked at the horizon and whispered, "You'll find out soon enough." Then he smiled again, the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. Jack knelt beside the little girl, who was still trembling, clutching the hem of his sleeve. "You're safe now," he said softly. "What's your name?" The child wiped her cheeks with the back of her hand. "Emily," she murmured. "He told me my mom sent him, but she didn't." Jack nodded slowly, feeling the weight of her words. Behind him, Rex sat upright, watching the patrol car drive away, his ears still twitching as if the danger hadn't truly passed. As the crowd began to scatter and the murmurs faded into the rustle of leaves, Jack remained still, his eyes fixed on the road where the police car had vanished. The sun dipped lower, brushing the park in gold, but for Jack, the light felt colder now. His instincts, long honed by war, whispered that this was not the end of something. It was the beginning. Rex gave a quiet bark, almost like an answer. Jack looked down at his companion and exhaled, a slow breath that carried both relief and unease. Somewhere deep inside, he knew that what Rex had sensed today was not a coincidence. Something darker lay beneath that calm smile and that tiny vial of liquid, something that would not stay buried for long. The following morning, the gray sky over Maple Ridge hung heavy with mist, and the streets still carried the echoes of last night's sirens. Inside the local police department, the air smelled faintly of coffee and printer ink, that blend of fatigue and focus that came only with long hours and cold cases. Jack Carter sat in the waiting area, one hand resting on Rex's head, the other clutching a cup of coffee gone lukewarm. The veteran's eyes were distant but alert, the same way they had been on deployment, watchful, ready. Rex sat upright beside him, calm but vigilant, his gaze flicking toward the hallway each time a door opened. The quiet hum of police radios filled the room, blending with murmured voices from behind frosted glass. Detective Olivia Barnes emerged from one of the offices, a woman in her late 30s with auburn hair pulled neatly back and a focused expression that carried the weight of both authority and empathy. Her uniform bore the insignia of a lieutenant, but her demeanor was calm, human. "Mr. Carter," she greeted, her tone firm yet respectful. "Thank you for coming in so soon." Jack nodded, setting his cup aside. "I figured you'd have questions." Olivia led him into an interrogation room, sterile, cold, yet not unfriendly. On the table lay the items taken from Victor Hale the day before: a wallet, a cell phone, a vial of clear liquid, and the photograph of a little boy. She slid the photo toward Jack. "Recognize the child?" she asked. Jack leaned forward, studying the image. The boy had curly brown hair and big, curious eyes, wearing a striped shirt and a faint, lopsided grin. "No," Jack said, shaking his head. "He wasn't at the park." Olivia nodded. "His name is Toby Moore, missing from Belgrade 2 weeks ago. The photo was found in Hale's possession." She paused, letting the name settle. "We've contacted the grandmother. She confirmed it's him." Jack's jaw tightened. "And Hale?" Olivia exhaled, tapping the file. "He's not saying much. Claims he was following orders." Rex let out a low whine, almost as if reacting to the tension in the room. Olivia glanced at the dog, then back at Jack. "That dog of yours, Rex, right? I read your report. You said he reacted before anyone else understood what was happening." Jack nodded. "He's got instincts," he said simply. "He's seen things most of us can't." Olivia half smiled, scribbling a note. "Sometimes instincts are the best evidence we've got." She opened another folder, revealing phone data logs. We pulled Hale's phone records. He's been in constant contact with someone named Dr. Hal Merrick, registered under the Everpine Wellness Institute out in Montana, a therapy and recovery center for grief and trauma. Jack frowned. A psychologist? A high-profile one, Olivia confirmed, and Hale transferred him a large payment 2 days before the abduction in Belgrade. We're still tracing it, but there's a pattern. She pointed at a printout showing dates and numbers. Every transaction lines up with a missing child case in the last 6 months. Different towns, same transfer address. The revelation settled over the room like a shadow. Jack exhaled slowly. So this isn't about one kid. It's bigger. Olivia nodded grimly. We think so, and now we're digging deeper. Just then, a young officer knocked and entered holding a tablet. Lieutenant Barnes, digital extraction from Hale's phone is complete, he said. There's a message draft recovered from deleted files. Olivia gestured for him to read it aloud. The officer hesitated, then said, quote, "The perfect child. Delivery confirmed on the 15th. Everpine will handle the rest." The silence that followed was sharp. Olivia exchanged a look with Jack. "The 15th," she repeated. "That's tomorrow." Jack's face darkened. "So there's another child." Olivia didn't answer. She only nodded to the officer, who left quietly. Rex shifted on his paws, his gaze turning toward the window where pale light seeped through the blinds. Jack reached out, running a hand over the dog's back, grounding himself in the familiar. "I know that look," he muttered. "You're thinking what I'm thinking." Olivia crossed her arms. "That Hale was just a courier," she said, "and whoever's running this Everpine, is pulling the strings." Jack met her eyes. "Then we need to find out what kind of place it really is." Olivia leaned back slightly, her expression unreadable. "We're working on a warrant, but for now I need your full statement." As they began the formal questioning, Olivia's voice softened. "Walk me through what happened yesterday from the moment you saw the man." Jack did. He described the bench, the fear in Emily's face, Rex's growl before the chaos. Each word came measured but vivid, shaped by the discipline of memory. Olivia listened intently, jotting notes but never interrupting. When Jack finished, she looked up and said quietly, "That girl owes her life to you, and to him." She nodded toward Rex, who perked his ears as if understanding. "Most people wouldn't have noticed." Jack gave a faint, humorless smile. "Maybe I just stopped pretending the world's always safe." Outside the room, voices rose briefly near the bullpen. Olivia excused herself and stepped out, speaking with another officer. Jack could see through the small glass panel, papers changing hands, Olivia's expression tightening. A few minutes later, she returned. "We've made contact with the girl's mother," she said. "Her name's Grace Miller, works as a nurse at the county hospital. She's on her way back now. We'll keep both of them under observation until we're sure there's no further threat." Jack nodded, relief flickering in his eyes. "Good. The kid's been through enough." Olivia gathered the evidence back into a folder, then paused at the door. "Mr. Carter, one more thing," she said. "You mentioned Rex reacted differently than usual. You think he picked up a scent? Something specific?" Jack thought for a moment. "Not fear," he said finally. "Something else, like danger that doesn't belong. I've seen him act that way around explosives before, but this was different. Personal." Olivia studied him for a long second. "Maybe instinct recognizes evil faster than logic ever could." She closed the folder. "We'll keep you informed as this develops." When Jack and Rex stepped out into the chilly afternoon, the air smelled faintly of rain. The park across the street looked unchanged, the same children playing, the same pigeons circling above the fountain, but something inside Jack had shifted. The photograph of Toby Moore, the words "perfect child," the calm smile of Victor Hale, all of it gnawed at the edges of his thoughts. Rex walked close beside him, tail low but steady, his amber eyes fixed ahead. Jack looked down at his companion and murmured, "You saw it first, boy. Whatever it is, we'll see it through." As they crossed the street, a gust of wind carried the scent of wet pine from the hills, and for a fleeting moment, Jack thought he heard sirens again in the distance, faint, like an echo of a warning yet to come. The road to Everpine twisted through miles of dense forest, where pine trees leaned close to one another like guardians whispering secrets. The morning mist clung low to the ground, curling around the tires of Olivia Barnes's unmarked SUV as it climbed higher into the Montana foothills. Jack Carter sat in the passenger seat, his gaze steady on the narrow path ahead, while Rex lay in the back seat, his amber eyes alert beneath the hum of the engine. Ever since leaving the precinct, Jack's thoughts had been circling the same point: the photograph of the boy, the cryptic message about the perfect child, and the strange calm in Victor Hale's eyes. Something in his gut told him this wasn't just a case about one missing child. It was something engineered, something planned. When the trees finally parted, the Everpine Wellness Institute came into view. It was an impressive structure, built of dark cedar and glass, its architecture designed to blend into the forest that surrounded it. Sunlight filtered through the canopy above, catching the metallic letters on the sign, Everpine Wellness Institute, healing through renewal. The message felt both soothing and deceptive, like a smile that didn't reach the eyes. Olivia parked near the main entrance, scanning the building through the windshield. "Looks peaceful," Jack murmured. "Too peaceful," Olivia replied. "Places like this always hide something behind the calm." She grabbed her badge and nodded to Rex, who immediately rose, tail rigid, ears pricked forward. Inside, the lobby smelled faintly of lavender and antiseptic. The walls were lined with framed photographs of serene landscapes, mountain lakes, meadows, sunlight streaming through clouds. A young receptionist greeted them with a practiced smile, her voice low and melodic. "Welcome to Everpine. How may I help you?" she asked. Olivia showed her badge. "Lieutenant Barnes, Gallatin County Sheriff's Department. We're here to speak with Dr. Hal Merrick regarding an ongoing investigation." The receptionist's smile faltered slightly, but recovered almost instantly. "I'll see if the doctor's available," she said, her tone still soft but noticeably tighter. While she made the call, Rex sniffed the air, pacing slowly near the counter. His movements were controlled, methodical, searching. As they waited, Jack's eyes moved to the far side of the room where several women sat in quiet conversation. They were of various ages, dressed neatly but with an air of fragility. One clutched a photo album against her chest, another twisted a silver locket in her hands. Their faces carried a certain hollowness, the kind born not from illness, but from loss. When one of the women looked up, her eyes met Jack's for a moment. There was something haunting there, something like recognition. "They all look like they've been through the same storm," Jack said under his breath. Olivia followed his gaze. "Grief. Patients, according to the website," she murmured. "Everpine specializes in trauma therapy for parents who've lost children." Dr. Hal Merrick entered the lobby moments later. He was in his early 60s, tall and lean, with silver hair and the calm, detached expression of a man accustomed to control. He wore a beige sweater over a white shirt, his sleeves neatly rolled up. "Officers," he greeted with a warm smile, extending a hand. "What a surprise. How can I help the department today?" Olivia shook his hand briefly but didn't return the smile. "We're following up on an ongoing case," she said. "One of your known associates, Victor Hale, was arrested yesterday. We have reason to believe he was acting under your instruction." Merrick's eyebrows lifted faintly. "Victor Hale? I'm afraid that name doesn't ring a bell. Many of our patients and contractors come and go." Jack watched him closely, reading the faint flicker in the man's composure. Olivia's tone remained professional but sharp. "We have evidence of financial transactions linking his account to yours. We'll need access to your client records." Merrick's polite smile faltered. "I'm afraid confidentiality laws prevent me from sharing patient information without a warrant," he said. "If you obtain one, we'll be happy to cooperate fully." Olivia held his gaze, her voice low. "We already did." She handed over the printed authorization. The doctor's lips tightened, the faintest crack in his facade. "Very well," he said after a pause. "My assistant will show you to the archives." He gestured toward a hallway. As they followed, Rex's head turned sharply toward a door on the left, a reaction so sudden that both Jack and Olivia noticed. His body stiffened, tail low, a warning without sound. The assistant, a young woman named Kendra Vale, led them through a corridor lined with frosted glass doors, each labeled with terms like restoration suite and emotional rebirth room. Her voice trembled slightly as she explained the center's unique therapeutic model. Dr. Merrick helps grieving parents reconnect with the memory of their children, she said, through guided visualization and sensory simulation. Many of them find peace here. Jack frowned. You mean he makes them believe their child is still alive? Kendra hesitated. He calls it spiritual redirection. He says sometimes belief is better than truth. The words unsettled Jack more than he expected. They reminded him of soldiers clinging to false hope in the dust of war. When they reached Merrick's office, the door was unlocked. Inside, the decor was minimalist but expensive. Mahogany desk, leather chairs, shelves filled with books on behavioral psychology and spiritual healing. A faint classical melody played from hidden speakers, meant to calm the nerves. Olivia and Jack began searching while Kendra stood uneasily by the door. In a filing cabinet marked Active Therapy, Olivia found a folder labeled More, Toby. Her pulse quickened as she opened it. Inside were medical forms, photos, and transcripts of therapy sessions labeled Soul Reconnection Phase 1-3. Attached was a flash drive. She plugged it into her laptop, and the room filled with Merrick's voice, smooth, deliberate. You will feel your child again, he said in the recording. He is close. He wants you to believe. The recording continued, with the sound of a woman weeping softly, murmuring the name Toby. Olivia stopped the playback and looked at Jack. This is it, she whispered, proof that Merrick's been manipulating grieving mothers into believing their children have returned. Jack clenched his fists. That's not therapy, that's control. Rex, who had been sniffing along the room's perimeter, suddenly froze near the wall-mounted mirror. His reflection looked wrong, too deep, too dark. Then he growled. Jack walked over, touching the edge of the glass. This isn't a mirror, he said. It's one way. Olivia examined the wall's frame and found a barely visible hinge along one side. Together, they pushed, and the mirror swung open to reveal a narrow passage lit by cold fluorescent light. The hidden room smelled faintly of disinfectant and something metallic. Inside, the sight froze them both. Cribs lined one wall, neatly arranged, each labeled with a first name. Shelves held rows of baby bottles, folded blankets, and children's toys. Cameras were mounted high in the corners, their red indicator lights blinking steadily. On a table sat several headsets, similar to those used for sensory therapy. Olivia's throat tightened. This isn't a therapy room, she whispered. It's a set. Jack walked slowly, eyes moving across the room's eerie order. He's been staging these as reunions, he said quietly. For women who've lost their kids, making them believe this is heaven on earth. Rex barked once, sharp and low. His body tensed near one of the cribs. Beneath it lay a folder partially hidden under a blanket. Olivia picked it up. It contained photos of children, each with medical tags and notes about behavioral conditioning. At the bottom of the stack, one picture showed the same little boy from Hale's wallet, Toby Moore. Across the page, written in Merrick's neat handwriting, were the words, Subject successfully transferred. Emotional bond established. Olivia's hands trembled as she closed the file. This is beyond therapy, she said. It's manipulation, psychological trafficking. Jack exhaled heavily, eyes dark. And Hale was just the delivery man. They exited the hidden room in silence. Behind them, the faint hum of the cameras seemed to echo like a heartbeat, mechanical and unfeeling. Olivia locked the door behind her and looked at Jack. We've got enough to bring him in, she said. Jack nodded, but his jaw was tight. You think this stops with Merrick? Olivia met his gaze, her expression grim. No, she said softly, but it starts with him. Rex stood between them, chest rising and falling, his eyes fixed on the dark hallway ahead, as if he already sensed that the shadows of Everpine were far deeper than anyone dared to see. The first snow began to fall before dusk, fine as ash drifting over the dark canopy of trees. By the time night settled across the Montana Valley, it turned into a full blizzard, wind howling through the pines, snowflakes slashing sideways, and the world swallowed in white. The Everpine facility stood silent now, its gates unguarded, its lights flickering through the storm like faint ghosts. Word had already spread through the law enforcement network. Dr. Hal Merrick had vanished just hours after Olivia filed the warrant for his arrest. Inside his office, the surveillance feeds were still running, showing empty hallways and therapy rooms stripped bare. Someone had moved fast. Jack stood beside Olivia in the command van outside the property, watching the grainy footage on the monitor. "He's evacuating," Jack said quietly. "He knows what's coming." Olivia nodded grimly. "Then we find where he's going, before the snow buries the trail." A tech officer turned from his console, pale under the harsh glow of the laptop. "We managed to track one device still active from Victor Hale's network," he reported. "GPS pinged about 30 minutes ago, moving north toward the old logging roads by Gallatin Ridge." Olivia leaned closer. "You're sure it's not a decoy?" "No, ma'am," the officer said. "It's real. The signal's intermittent but steady. If Hale's out there, he's not alone." Jack's jaw tightened. "He shouldn't be out at all. He's still supposed to be in custody." Olivia exhaled through her teeth. "Someone got him out. Probably Merrick." She turned to Jack and Rex. "We'll take point. The SWAT convoy will follow 5 minutes behind. We move now." The SUV cut through the snow like a black arrow. The headlights caught only flashes of white, swirling like smoke in front of them. Rex sat upright in the back, nose pressed to the window, ears twitching. Jack could feel the tension in his chest, a deep, quiet certainty that this night would not end without blood. "You ready for this, partner?" he asked softly. Rex's tail gave a single thump against the seat. Olivia's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. "He's not moving children to protect them," she said. "He's moving them to erase them. He can't afford witnesses." Her words hung in the car like frost. They reached the first turnoff at Gallatin Ridge, where the main road broke into narrow, unpaved trails. Snow had buried the signposts, and the wind shrieked through the branches like a living thing. Olivia stopped the SUV. "We go on foot from here," she said. Jack nodded, pulling his coat tight as he stepped out into the storm. The cold bit instantly into his skin, but he barely felt it. Rex leapt out beside him, paws sinking into snow nearly a foot deep. His breath came in short clouds, his fur already dusted white. Olivia radioed back to the team. "Unit 1 proceeding north on foot, keep comms. Open." Static answered her, followed by a faint voice. "Copy that, Barnes. Be careful out there." They moved single file through the forest, the beam of their flashlights slicing through the storm. Rex led the way, nose to the ground, occasionally lifting his head to sniff the air. Jack followed close behind, scanning the tree line for movement. Every sound, every crack of ice, every shift of wind felt amplified. Then, suddenly, Rex stopped, his ears pinned back, body tense. Jack raised a hand for silence. The dog turned slightly to the right, toward a faint shape in the distance, a dark structure barely visible through the snow. Olivia squinted. "A barn?" she muttered. Jack shook his head. "Too small, maybe a storage shed." Rex barked once, sharp and low. They started toward it, weapons drawn. The structure emerged from the white like a ghost, an old logging warehouse, its roof sagging, metal siding rusted. A faint yellow light glowed through a narrow crack in the door. Olivia signaled for a perimeter check, but the storm made visibility near impossible. "We go in fast," Jack said. "No waiting for backup." Olivia hesitated only a moment, then nodded. "On 3. She mouthed the count. 1, 2, 3. Jack kicked the door open. Inside, the air was heavy with the chemical scent of ether and gasoline. A single lantern flickered on a crate, casting long, jagged shadows across the room. In the corner, a figure slumped over a table, a child, unmoving. Olivia rushed forward, checking for vitals. "It's him," she breathed. "Toby Moore." The boy's pulse was faint but steady. A small IV needle was taped to his arm, connected to an empty vial labeled with a pharmaceutical name Jack didn't recognize. "He's sedated," Olivia said. "Light dose, but long enough to keep him quiet." Rex began growling again, low and dangerous. Jack turned, gun raised. A sound came from behind the crates, the shuffle of boots. Then Victor Hale stepped out of the shadows. His face was pale, eyes bloodshot, hair matted with snow. He held a syringe in one hand and a revolver in the other. "Don't move," he said, voice shaking. "You don't understand. He's not supposed to wake up yet." Jack leveled his weapon. "Drop it, Hale." The man's hands trembled. "You think I wanted this?" he snapped. Merrick made me do it. He said the child was special, pure. His words cracked under the weight of fear. If he wakes up, everything falls apart. Jack took a slow step forward. That's over. Put the syringe down. For a heartbeat, Hale hesitated, eyes darting between Jack and Olivia. Then he lunged toward the boy. Before Jack could fire, Rex was already in motion, a blur of muscle and instinct. The German shepherd slammed into Hale's arm, sending the syringe flying. The revolver went off, the shot echoing through the warehouse, shattering a lantern. Flames leapt instantly along the spilled, fuel. Jack dove forward, pinning Hale, as Rex tore the gun from his grip with a snarl. The man screamed, struggling, but Jack's weight held firm. "You're done," he growled. Olivia pulled Toby from the table, shielding him from the spreading fire. Smoke filled the air, acrid and thick. "We have to move," she shouted. Jack yanked Hale to his feet, dragging him toward the door as Rex backed out, barking to guide them. Outside, the storm howled harder, the snow now mixed with flakes of ash from the burning structure. Jack shoved Hale into the snow, cuffing him as the rest of the SWAT team finally arrived, their lights flashing through the trees. The chaos lasted only minutes. By the time the flames consumed the building, Merrick himself appeared at the edge of the clearing, flanked by two men in dark coats. His face was calm, almost serene. "This doesn't end here, Lieutenant," he called out through the wind. "You're disrupting progress, evolution." Olivia raised her weapon. "Drop what you're carrying." Merrick smiled faintly and lifted a small black hard drive between two fingers. "Everything I've built is in here," he said. "But even if you take it, you'll never understand it." His words vanished beneath the roar of the wind as SWAT officers closed in. Within seconds, he was disarmed and forced to his knees. As the cuffs clicked shut around his wrists, the hard drive slipped from his hand into the snow. Olivia retrieved it carefully, holding it up to the flashlight. "We've got it," she said, her voice steady but tired. "Patient files, video archives, everything." Merrick looked up at her, his smile fading. "You can destroy the evidence," he said softly, "but not the idea." Jack stared down at him. "Ideas don't matter when you're in prison." Rex stood beside him, fur bristling, growl low and steady. For the first time, Merrick looked away. The storm began to ease near dawn. The fire at the warehouse burned low, reduced to glowing embers beneath the snow. The team prepared for extraction, loading Hale and Merrick into separate vehicles. Toby lay wrapped in blankets in the back of an ambulance, his breathing even now, his tiny hand clutching a stuffed bear that one of the paramedics had given him. Olivia stood by the open door, her hair damp with melting snow, exhaustion etched deep around her eyes. Jack approached quietly, Rex beside him. "We got him out," he said. Olivia nodded. "Barely. But it's enough." She looked toward the forest, where smoke still rose between the trees. "Let's make sure this place never breathes again." Spring came slowly to Montana that year, melting the last traces of snow from the pines and filling the air with the clean scent of rain and thawed earth. The storm that had once consumed Everpine had long since faded into memory, but its echoes remained, in reports, in quiet interviews, in the faces of those it had touched. Months had passed since that night, and life in Maple Ridge was beginning to breathe again. The mountains looked softer now under the morning sun, and the lake shimmered like glass. Jack Carter stood near the water's edge, his hands tucked into the pockets of his worn jacket, watching Rex bound through the grass after two small figures, Toby Moore and Emily, laughing as they chased a rubber ball across the field. Toby, now 3, had grown stronger with every passing week. His curls had returned, brighter than before, and his eyes held that fearless curiosity children have when the world finally feels safe again. He lived with his grandmother, Eleanor Moore, in a small cottage overlooking the lake, a place filled with sunlight, books, and the comforting smell of cinnamon and tea. Eleanor, in her 60s, but still sharp and strong, spent her days tending to the garden and writing letters to the other families who had lost someone to Merrick's lies. She believed in healing not through forgetting, but through building something new. Emily came often to visit. The little girl, once trembling in fear on that park bench, now carried herself with a quiet bravery. Her prosthetic leg made her slower than Toby, but Rex always adjusted his pace, keeping between the two children like a patient guardian. Jack often watched her in silence, seeing in her not just survival, but courage, the kind born from innocence scarred too early, yet still unbroken. She called him Mr. Jack now, and she always brought Rex a biscuit in her pocket. "For saving me first," she'd whisper before tossing it to him, and Rex, tail thumping, would take it gently as if he understood every word. The day of the commendation ceremony arrived under a bright blue sky. The town hall of Gallatin County was filled with faces, officers, families, and townspeople who had followed the case that shook Montana. Jack stood beside Olivia Barnes, both in formal attire, their postures disciplined, yet humbled. Olivia, dressed in a dark uniform with her badge gleaming, accepted the sheriff's commendation for outstanding service and moral integrity. Her speech was brief, steady, and filled with gratitude to her team. When it came time to honor Rex, the room fell silent. The sheriff stepped forward holding a polished bronze medallion engraved with the words, "Silent Guardian." Rex sat obediently at Jack's side as the applause swelled, his head tilted slightly, his amber eyes calm. The sheriff smiled. "For courage beyond command, for loyalty beyond duty," he said, lowering the medal to hang from the black leather collar. Cameras flashed, and for a moment, Jack felt time freeze, the sound of applause fading into the quiet echo of memory. He knelt, resting his hand on Rex's neck. "You earned this, boy," he whispered. "You saw what none of us did." Rex pressed his head gently against Jack's arm, as if to remind him that some bonds were beyond words, forged in the silence between instinct and trust. After the ceremony, Olivia found Jack standing near the steps outside, the wind playing with the ends of her auburn hair. "You ever think about what comes next?" she asked. Jack smiled faintly. "I think about it every day," he said. "There's too many people still trying to heal, and too many dogs that could help them do it." Olivia tilted her head, curious. "You have something in mind?" Jack nodded toward Eleanor, who was speaking with a group of local volunteers nearby. "Rangers Refuge," he said. "A place where both can start over, the kids and the dogs. Not therapy, not training, just connection." Olivia's smile widened. "Count me in." Within months, the old veterinary clinic on Main Street was reborn. The sign above its door read, "Rangers Refuge, where healing finds a home." Inside, sunlight poured through wide windows onto polished floors. Shelves held toys, blankets, and training tools. Eleanor coordinated the volunteers, teachers, veterans, and animal trainers, while Olivia handled the outreach and logistics. Jack focused on the training itself, teaching both dogs and children about trust and boundaries, about finding calm after chaos. Rex, of course, was the star of it all, patient with the children, gentle with the shy ones, protective with those still haunted by nightmares. One afternoon, Toby and Emily arrived together for their weekly visit. They played fetch with Rex in the yard behind the center, their laughter spilling out across the open field. Eleanor watched from the porch, her eyes bright with pride and gratitude. Jack joined her, hands resting on the wooden railing. "You think they'll remember all this when they grow up?" he asked. Eleanor smiled. "Not every detail," she said softly, "but they'll remember the feeling, that they were safe, that someone cared enough to fight for them. That's what matters." Jack nodded, watching as Toby stumbled, fell, and laughed as Rex circled back, gently nudging him up again. As evening fell, the lake mirrored the colors of sunset, gold fading into rose, rose into deep violet. Olivia joined them at the porch, her uniform replaced by a worn denim jacket. "There's a call from Helena," she said. "State wants to fund a program modeled after this one. Rangers Refuge might not be just a single place anymore." Jack turned to her, eyebrows raised. "That's good news," he said, "though I don't think Rex is ready to retire just yet." Olivia chuckled. "He's earned it if he wants it." Jack looked down at the dog lying at his feet, the medal still gleaming, faintly in the fading light. "Yeah," he said quietly, "but I think he's happiest right here." The final light of day brushed the lake in gold. Emily and Toby sat near the water's edge, Rex stretched out beside them, his muzzle resting on his paws. The children tossed pebbles into the rippling surface, their reflections dancing with each throw. Jack watched from a distance, feeling something in his chest ease for the first time in years. "Funny," he murmured to Olivia. "After everything, it wasn't justice that fixed this. It was kindness." Olivia nodded, her eyes soft. Kindness is the hardest kind of courage, she said, the quiet kind, the kind that doesn't make headlines. The sun slipped beneath the horizon, leaving a hush over Maple Ridge. The lake shimmered faintly under the rising moon, and the world seemed to pause in gratitude. Rex lifted his head once, glancing toward Jack, then toward the children, his eyes gentle, his breathing slow and steady. The breeze rustled the trees, carrying with it the faint sound of laughter. Jack stood, his silhouette framed by the last amber light. "Come on, boy," he called softly. Rex rose, stretched, and padded to his side. Together they watched the dawn's reflection begin to stir across the still water, a promise of peace, hard-earned and deeply kept. In the end, this story reminds us that true heroism often lives in silence, not in grand gestures, but in quiet acts of compassion, courage, and sacrifice. Jack, Olivia, and Rex didn't seek glory, they simply refused to turn away when others needed them. It is that kind of love, steady, selfless, and unseen, that keeps the world from falling apart. If this story touched your heart, share your thoughts in the comments below. Tell us what kindness means to you, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another story of hope and humanity. May God bless you and your loved ones wherever you are tonight.